Blair Berg, he drew up a wrong ear to match rope me there. I had a lot to, and I don't rope good in mud, and I roped that day like I was on dry ground, and he was in 3 foot of mud. So.
Hey, hit that subscribe button now. You're going to like it. Welcome to the Luke Branquinho Show. My next guest is a 6-time world champion and over $3 million in career earnings. And I will say this with pride. He is a great friend of mine. Cody Ohl, thanks for joining me, man.
No problem, buddy. Thanks for having me.
You bet. One thing we like to do on Luke Branquinho Show, and I know that's why I asked you on, is we're going to be honest. We're going to be brutal. We're going to hit all the points, and we're going to let people know this rodeo life isn't all glamour like they see at the NFR on TV.
Sure.
Along with so many other things that's going on and that have gone on in your life. I want to start off with what you did a few weeks ago with that benefit for Caleb Berquist. A lot of people don't know Caleb was injured in a quad accident, I believe, and had a serious broken leg and issue or injury. And you really, I guess you could say, came out of retirement because you matched another kid to benefit this.
Sure. I had a girl reach out to me and asked if I would be interested in doing this. And then I just ran with it. I took off. I was like, man, I'm training horses again. Probably wasn't ever supposed to walk straight again. This is perfect timing. So I literally just called out anybody and everybody. I mean, it didn't matter if it was Riley Webb, Shad Mayfield, or, turned out to be Cass Newman, a great friend of Caleb's. And so I ran with it, and sponsors got on board, right here in my backyard. And then Cass brought a lot to the table. We ended up raising like $29,000 for Caleb, just little backyard roping.
Well, a lot of people understand the tight-knit community the Western industry has, how we're always there to help each other, help other people out, even strangers, people we don't know. That's what I loved about this is you went out there and you guys raised a pile of money for this kid who's, struggling to hopefully get back to some normality in his life.
Sure. And, I had to be the match roping. I've known before he had his accident, I know he's known my story, It's been out there. It's been all over the place, So I was prepared to, lose 3 seconds of calf. I seen this kid rope. I seen videos of him rope. It's never been in my mind to ever lose. But I was prepared. It was about the story. It wasn't about winning. It was about getting to compete again and what God can do in your life and the miracles He can do through you.
When you mentioned, and I know the story, and a lot of people do, but I don't know if our listeners and viewers do, but you didn't know if you were going to be able to walk straight again. And for anybody out there that doesn't follow Cody Ohl on Instagram, I suggest you do and check out his story from a couple years ago. I remember seeing you getting up off the hospital bed in a walker, and you couldn't even take 2 or 3 steps without being in excruciating pain. Talk us through what led up to that and what happened and where you're at now.
I was actually dealing with some back issues, and so I wasn't getting around all that good before I was in the backyard one evening, and I blew my meniscus out. Well, it swole up, size of a basketball. And so I called an orthopedic guy in Stephenville, and he injected it and drained it. 3 days later, the same exact thing. So we did it all over again. And 2 days after that, man, I wake up at like 5 a.m. screaming and don't know where I'm at, don't even know my name. Wakes Blake up, so he calls 911 and my best friend, and so they get me to the hospital. And then about, I got staph and blood poisoning and MRSA, you name it. So within 4 days, then I was fighting for my life. I was right there on the critical stage, and then they got me to Fort Worth and got me to a blood specialist and disease specialist, and I stayed there for like 4 months. So went from pretty normal life, just kind of retired and beat up. But, then I blink and I'm fighting for my life. And so, within 6 months there, all that poison and stuff went from my knee to whatever was next in line that was struggling, which was my hip. So, it was eating away at my hip like nonstop, and they couldn't figure it out, couldn't get it stopped. So it's just as much pain as the day I went in until the day I had hip surgery, which was like 7 months later. So what you're seeing on that walker, I mean, that was from being laying in bed, not being able to get up for 4 or 5 months, and then leading up to that, them starting to get me up and do exercises. But I still didn't lose that sharp pain because my hip had to be replaced, and it was all being ate away by all that poison.
Well, and this is coming from obviously a 6-time world champion, the winningest calf rope or winningest tie down roper in history, money earner, somebody that has battled his whole life to be successful, that has fought through pain and fought through injury, and for this to knock you down like it did, that had to have been some, serious stuff going on. And obviously in the hospital for 4 months and fighting for your life. And so when I heard the story, we were still in California. Now we're damn near neighbors. Heiko address. I was like, man, I need to check on Cody, see how he's doing. And then people say, oh, he's being dramatic. It's not that bad, or this happened and that, which I'm sure you heard all that bullshit too. We've all been hurt and we've all been injured, but this was, you could have not been here with us right now.
There's an awesome lady here in town that's a EMS and all that stuff. So she would beat me to these locations as they would move me and just, drill them and quiz them and all that. After the fact, I'm home, this is about 6 months ago. She says, Cody, I'm just going to tell you, like 99% of people that would have been in your predicament, they died. Like, we're great friends. I'm not buttering this up. You were supposed to be dead. So like, I had a great friend that her mom lives right down the road from me, and she lives across the way on 281. She come in there after 4 days and said, I am taking the initiative to move you to Fort Worth. If you stay here one more day, you're dead. Like, they don't even know what to do with you here. And so, I mean, it was to the point where I was almost like Sailor and I were breaking it down. I mean, like, I'm preparing her because they're telling me to prepare her that there's a good chance I die, so that's pretty dramatic. So
yeah. You were being way dramatic, Cody.
Yeah, I injected my knee and drained it myself. I've heard all the stories.
Oh,
I wish I was that dumb, but it was serious stuff, man.
Well, and without the support, and I know family's so important, but Blake and Sailor and Hunter, they were with you step by step, and I can remember seeing videos of them taking care of you, and close friends coming in, and again, the rodeo community, your true friends, they always seem to shine in your toughest moments, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And just like not only rodeo community, but like rodeo oriented, rodeo anything, period. Like I can remember when I was at my worst, nurses coming in there, and like my phone would be over on the table, and they would be like, hey, something's wrong with your phone. Like, it just glows, like it stays on the whole time, and I'm so sick, I'm not even on it. And so like weeks went by, but then I checked and I was like, oh my God, I mean, like, you have no idea. I mean, it was nonstop prayers. So like, it was like staying on because there was so many people praying for me that it never even shut off, like, I guess when one person would end, the next one would click on, so it was, that was the most touching thing ever,
Well, I know as a fan, first of all, because I got to watch you when you were younger, as I was a kid before I even started professional rodeoing, and now as a friend. Obviously, I'm glad you're still around here with us and seeing what you're doing, with these benefits and these lessons. And I know you got your place up and going, because when we came out here, we closed on this place almost over a year ago. And everybody's like, oh, Cody lives right there. And what you've done in that year's time to build it to what it is. And I know you get joy out of it, but what you're doing to help bring up the youth and the future stars of not only the tie down rope, but the breakaway rope. And man, you're doing an awesome job over there.
Oh, thank you. It's it all started, back to my kid's story, Sailor, she comes to me and says, hey Dad, it's I almost lost you forever. And I love my mom more than anything in the world, but I know if you're gone, I'm not going to get to live the dream of trying to fill your shoes, but in a different event, So she asked me that day, she said, Dad, would you just quit drinking? And before she get the end out of drinking, I mean, that was it. Like, not another drop. Closing in on almost a year right before the state high school finals in Texas. So it'll be a year, 2 days before it starts. But just those things. And then, even after that, like 70, I can tell you the story because it's 77 days after I quit drinking that I was on my knees, which that wasn't a very good place for me, but it was the place I knew I had to be. I was on my back porch on the cement and on my knees on my walker. And I was like, God, I know you kept me here for my kids. I know you did. I know you knew they needed me longer. I said, but what else? Come on, man, give me something and I will run with it. 2 days later, I get a phone call, or actually I don't even get a phone call. I get a text message from Jerry Nelson, which he had seen me a few weeks before that at the Cowboys, helping Cowboys, and I was on a cane and a walker pretty much, but I was on a cane that night. But anyway, this is 77 days after I quit drinking. And so he said, hey man, I know everybody knows I'm obsessed with the bucking horses and the bulls and all that, but I'm just obsessed with the roping horses and the quarter horse end of the deal. He said, how healthy are you? And just all this is text messages. What do you need to get going? And what do you need to build? And what do we need to, kind of horses do we need? And within a week, my best friend's breaking ground here. I mean, we're building a barn. We're finishing the arena. We're putting a shed over it so I can work in the summertime. Not only when I showed God that I was ready to carry the torch, did he start blessing my life like unreal. So I was saved at 16 years old, and we all think we hear God or we praise God for a plan. I never really heard a clear plan my whole life. I would pray and hey, maybe this is the way he wanted me to do this. But yeah, most of the time it wasn't, so, but I mean, it's like I ask for something now, it's almost like I'm in conversation. I mean, he knows I'm dialed in. Everybody's like, man, he's going to fall off the wagon. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. There's not a chance in hell the wheels fall off this wagon, man. I said, don't. I loved all the prayers for me and all this, but hey, pray for somebody that needs it. Somebody that has to go to AA to get to this point that I'm at in my life. I didn't have to do that, thank God. I was blessed to have the willpower from my daughter's voice saying, just please, Dad, quit drinking, So with all that said, it's just overwhelming, the joy that I'm getting to live now through God and blessing other people's lives from my story. It's my story he's kept me here to share,
Well, and a lot of people don't realize the demons that, and I think in all acts of life, but on the rodeo trail, there's demons coming at you left and right. I know you experienced it. Hell, anybody that's been out there has experienced it. And we don't need to get into exactly those demons, but they can turn you down a path that it's hard or you cannot come back from. And for you, as long as you rodeoed and I got to spend a lot of time with you, we got to experience those. And fortunately for me, I was able to come back off them. Fortunately for you, you were able to come back from them. And I think it has to do with, knowing that path and then that faith that you do have. And, especially for me, I don't know that I've heard that like what you've heard as far as that path. I know it's out there and maybe I need to search a little bit more for it, but those demons, man, they could end a guy.
Yeah. I mean, Dave ended me, but I was, I know what he's created when he created me. I mean, an overcomer of any and everything now, it's all part of the story. I mean, this was all his plan, because I've done things a lot better. Oh, you damn right I could have. But now it's like, man, I'm going to go to a preacher that's had some sin in his life, right? Right. I mean, it's hard for me to listen to a guy that's never done anything wrong. You know what I mean? I'm saying we all sin. It doesn't matter. He's a sinner too. But what I'm getting at is he hasn't failed at the maximum stage. You know what I'm saying? So this was all part of the perfect plan at the end.
Well, I know for me in my career, family and forgiveness, if it wasn't for forgiveness, I don't know where I'd be in my life. I think the same for you. You have to admit your mistakes. You have to come to terms with them, but you have to be forgiven from them. And starts off with you forgiving yourself.
Sure.
If you can't forgive yourself, it doesn't matter who else forgives you, because that's where it has to start.
That's where it had to start, you know, and then like people starting to buy in, you know, like I had sponsors that they didn't cut me. They stepped back for a little while, right? So like now everybody's just peeled right back to where we were at when I was at the top of my game. You know, I just handle my sponsors different now. You know, did I actually have to have sponsors when I was at the prime of my career? No, I didn't really have to. I had a lot of sponsors get on board that just wanted to be on board, you know, so I didn't tend to those very good. Right. You know, like now, these signs in my arena stay up daily just to remind me how special what I'm doing really is, to see how many people believe in what I'm doing. You know, the whole fence is 3/4 full, and then my gold sponsors are one shy of being completely full. And so, like I said, I forgave myself, and then now people are forgiving me for past mistakes, you know, because I'm an open book, man. My phone number is out there regardless. I'm just throwing the phone number out there because you can call me, you can text me, you can do whatever. I'm an open book. Get on my Instagram. I mean, like, I post some stuff I probably shouldn't. I have no shame in my game. I made mistakes, man. Like I said, there's a lot of haters out there, and it'll like consume you, right?
Oh yeah.
All the stuff we do and we made mistakes, we let it consume us. They don't actually hate us. They hate looking in the mirror. We just had a bigger target on our backs the whole time, right? So we're the ones that they pick on, right? The ones that are successful. Yeah. So until you realize all that they really don't really dislike you or hate you, nothing will ever change. And man, you'll just always have that chip on your shoulder. And, you know, it's not the way God wants you to be, and it's not the way you're supposed to live, you know?
Well, and again, going back to forgiving yourself, because if you don't have that guilt on your shoulders because you forgave yourself, it's a lot easier to not, I guess, turn a blind eye, but ignore what the outside world is saying about you. And that's, again, one thing I've always loved and about you. And again, before I became professional, watching the way you handled yourself inside the arena and the way you went at everything, you know, that's how I wanted to go at my life. And then when I started rodeoing, that's how I wanted to go at my rodeo. And I can remember, I can't remember what year it was, but I had a sombrero on my head, and I think you just broke the record and won the world. And I was the first person that got a hug out of you. And I see it on one of your Instagram posts, I'm like, gosh, dang, I was young and we were getting it on back then. But to be able to have that friendship and carry it on and learn a lot from you, I appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's one thing that really touched me, like, now with all the mistakes I know I made, you know, like, for somebody to say, man, you were the fiercest competitor I've ever seen in my entire life in the arena. You know, they never said anything good about my outside life because, you know, there was improvement that I needed to make, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I kept my great people on my team because I tended to, you know, sponsorships, like far as the kids, the public. Right. I love that. I mean, you couldn't cut a line off too early. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, he's done signing. No, I'm not done signing until those guys come through the line, you know? Right. But that's the only thing that kind of kept everything good for me, you know, over my mistakes. Cause I would still take time for people, you know, it's not, you know, like my daughter was like, Dad, you just tied a calf in 6. I mean, you just look like you're mad at the world. You know what I mean? I'm just overwhelmed with so much heart and so much try and adrenaline. You know, we're all great friends, you know, and with that being said, you know, if it's the 10th round, they're all the scenarios are playing out, you know, hey man, he's got to miss tonight. Even though he's your best friend, man, right? Hey, he's got to miss tonight. He misses tonight, I beat him for a world championship. That's their conversation, right? So when I throw my hands up and I'm just like, finally can let it all release, you know, it's like, Sailor, you don't realize it's like, I just put my foot on their throat. You know, they're my best friends, but I just put my foot on their throat. And, you know, it's the blood, sweat, and tears that all led up to this my whole life to become the best, you know? Well,
it's like that, I don't even know what you call it, but it has a picture and it shows an iceberg. It says what they see and what you put into it. And it's that much, you know, it's 1,000 or 100 times bigger than what they actually see. And that's the emotion you show after a run or something like that. And
sure,
because of everything underneath the surface that nobody sees.
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to lead up to is like, what was cool about my deal, I'd be in the room, you know, like I know I have to win first that night. I have to win first. So not only was I preparing myself for that run, and hopefully I just had, out of 15 calves, there was 2 that in any pen that I probably didn't want, that I didn't feel like I could win first on. And so, like, I'm preparing for that, but I'm also preparing to give the ticket buyer everything they came for. You know what I mean? I'm preparing myself to what I'm going to do. I didn't just do that like off a reaction. I mean, it's like, it's in my thought. That night I had the Sharpie, that's right off of Terrell Owens' deal at the football game. Like, I knew I was signing that hat and I'd throw it in the stands. I knew I was doing that after I won the round that night. But more of the preparation going into that as my run,
Yeah. Well, and that's the confidence that you have to be a champion that you are. And again, you have to have that, cockiness to be able to be successful at that level. And you, I mean, obviously, in my opinion, the best, or right there. There's a handful of you guys I think that are there, but the winningest cowboy for a reason. And that takes me back to 2001 when you win the all around and you win the calf roping, but you blew your knee out in the 9th go round and did not get to compete in the 10th round. So I got to watch that run as my first year at the NFR, and watching that all transpire, missing the calf, second loop, foot hanging up, blowing your knee out, but the determination and the grit you had to finish that run. Because if you don't finish that run, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't win that.
No, because I still had a chance to place in the average.
Right.
They're telling me I have to turn out. I cannot compete in the 10th round. I said, I just competed and beat the whistle. You're saying I can't do that again? If I can break the barrier and catch this calf and be under the whistle and win 8th in the average, you're saying you're telling me I can't do that? I mean, there's not enough duct tape in this town that I can't put on this leg, and enough pain pills that I can win. I can beat the whistle. I promise you, I can do that. But it all played out as in, I at the point I needed to get a time on that calf. You know what I'm saying? So Jesse Bell, it played out just the way I needed it to play out. He had to buck off of one. He had to win the round maybe in both events or something to pull it off. But like I said, I had to get a time that night. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's frustrating about watching nowadays. I mean, it's not blood, sweat, and tears, saw a leg off, do whatever it takes to get a time now. I mean, it's like, I'll just pull up right here, Well, there's no pull up in me, man.
Catania Brothers 100% grass-fed beef is the cleanest jerky you will find. Cut extra thin so it is easy to eat. This jerky is handcrafted from top-round, pasture-raised beef sourced exclusively from Sun-Fed Ranch in California. The meat is tumbled in hand-mixed spices, marinated in red wine vinegar, and hung to dry in the old-fashioned way on steel rods, not screens. Sea salt, black pepper, chipotle, and chili cayenne flavors are packed with 16 grams of protein per serving and no sugar. Check out the individually wrapped strips to take on the go. Visit www.cataniobrothers.com and use code Luke15 for 15% off your next order. Make sure and follow at Catania Bros on social media. Well, and I'm hoping we're able to get video footage of that run. And I think you have it on your social media for people to see. But, man, you can see your knee go out, and you can see you getting down there. Planking and tying, I can't even imagine. I mean, I blew my knee out and had to be helped out of the arena in Santa Maria in 19. You had to finish your damn run. And I know there's adrenaline going, but gosh dang. To me, that's just what a cowboy is.
Yeah, it's kind of like Tandy coming. I mean, he was the first one to me, and he's like, we lay there in his natural thing, either as a bull rider or any kind of professional rodeo athlete, I'll get up, let's get out of the arena, so I'm like, hell yeah, let's get out of here. So about the time they put their hands under my arm, oh man, it just overtook my body, everything, all the adrenaline was gone. And I mean, like, it was like you're stabbing me with a knife, like, now I can't do this, Tandy, I can't get up. Like, and he calls in for the board, but to get through that today, I don't actually know if I could do that again. I mean, it was It was tough, and then that calf was pretty good size at that. But my mind's going 900 miles an hour. Like the thing I should have done was went and laid on the calf while he was down, and then cut the rope. Hell, I'm behind him. I cut myself about 6 inches of rope to hold on to. And they're like, "What are you doing, man?" I said, "Man, all I can think about is all the charter planes it took me to get to this point to win this all around, and I'm going to lose it this away. No, I'm not going to lose it this away. No." It's big old flashing lights, going off. I guess just because we were in Vegas, but you lost. And I'm just pulling it together. No, I'm not losing, man. I'm not losing.
And so we're clear. MCL, ACL, PCL, patella
tendon.
And for people that aren't doctors, the patella tendon is what holds the kneecap. That's a pretty big tendon. I mean, it's pretty wide.
Yeah, that's the one that ruins your Christmas when you have little kids. There's no more getting down on that knee by the Christmas tree.
Right. I know on mine, Tandy took part of the patella tendon out to put in my ACL, and it still hurts.
Well, that's what he's done to me, So then you have that little plastic piece in there. And so, yeah, like you bump it nowadays just on the counter or something, it. Yeah, for sure.
You get reminded of that surgery. That's for dang sure.
Oh, yeah. Technology now, like surgery now, it's just crazy. Like I went through 3 surgeries to get this fixed, like it wasn't go in there, man, and then, hey, man, 6 months from now, rock and roll, it was grueling. I've been put to sleep 3 times just to get my knee fixed,
Right.
And so things are a little different.
Yeah, battled back from that, obviously. 2002, obviously rehabbing that knee, and then coming back in 2003 and just never missed a beat.
Yeah, that was another thing that, the haters fired that up for me too, he's not going to rehab like he needs to. There's no way he comes back as good as he was and this and that, So this was an 8-month process, I actually moved to town from where we live so I could go rehab twice a day. I come back for Abilene, I roped at Abilene, and they called me for the match open in San Angelo, and I said, I will be ready. Blair Berg, he drew up a wrong year to match rope me there. I had a lot in it. I don't rope good in mud, and I roped that day like I was on dry ground, and he was in 3 foot of mud. So, I had a lot to prove, and I come back, and so that, the night you kissed me on the cheek, gave me a hug with that sombrero. I mean, it was the most gratifying feeling ever because I'm not supposed to be back as good as I was, right? So I came back better. That was the fastest run of ever, So that was a feeling like no other.
Well, and those feelings are, for guys like you and just true champions, they're not few and far between because you hope you don't have to battle back from an injury. But I was able to experience that in 2014, leading the world standings, going to Salinas, had arm surgery, tore my lat, and again got told you're not going to be able to run them at the finals. If you do, you won't be as strong, you won't be as good. And when you tell guys like us that, you better watch your ass out because we're coming back hot.
You better. You just stowed 5 gallons of gas on me, buddy.
I was on the elliptical 3 days after surgery. Twice a day I was in that YMCA, and I didn't do anything but just try to keep the blood flowing to get it healed. But that was the best shape I was in going in the finals. As like you were saying, that next year you were probably as sharp and as ready to win as you'd ever been.
I was, buddy. Like I said, for me to work out twice a day, I mean, I was like I was a senior in high school again,
The problem is I needed to maintain that all the way through the end of my career, and that didn't happen,
Yeah, I understand that too.
Man, but it's been awesome for me just to, again, be able to become friends with you, and it brings me to my next story of us going to Calgary. I was traveling with Les Shepperson, and I don't know what happened, but we got up the same at those Sheridan, and I don't know if we went to Casper, but Calgary back and forth, and you had Blake with us. And I just remember looking in the back seat, and I mean, you want to talk about somebody that was an awesome dad. I got to watch it firsthand with you and Blake and in that trip. And I don't know, it felt like it was just a couple of days, but it was more like a week, I believe.
Yeah, and, people don't know his whole story, you know what I mean? Like when he was a baby, he spiked this fever. We were in Walla Walla. It wouldn't go down, so it's going on 2 days. And I mean, we're holding him down, doing all these tests and doing everything you can possibly imagine to figure out what's going on. Well, later on, we're still doing tests when we're in high school. You know what I mean? This is when he's a baby, and never did narrow it down. But I know for a fact, like that caused some brain issues. You know what I mean? It scarred him inside his brain from this fever. So I don't know what it did to him as far as anything, but all I know is we were inseparable. There was no, you know, my wife said at one time, if something was to happen to you, he needs to be with you. I mean, it's sick to say, but like, he was that obsessed. I mean, I was his rock. You know, I finished conversations for him his entire life. You know, like, if you asked too hard of a question, he couldn't finish it. You know, he could start into it, but he couldn't finish it. So I was his lifeline his whole life. So like when Jenny would fly back with Hunter to start school, Blake is 2 years old in diapers, and I'm rodeoing with a driver and whoever else is rodeoing with me. I go to the airports all night long. I've got a diaper bag, a rope can, and a clothes bag. I mean, we were that inseparable, you know, like he would be in my lap with my saddle. Cimarron's one roper before me. When he's riding back to the box, I would have to hand Blake to him to rope my calf, you know, and then same thing, he's hurrying up getting back to me because he's just clawing, you know, he's needing me back, you know, but he's been with me since he's 2 years old. Like, I mean, before that, it's every day until Hunter started school, you know, but he never left. He never went home with Jenny. He never, you know, long as I was rodeoing, he was rodeoing. And, you know, he was 3 years old. If his pants weren't starched, he wasn't going to the rodeo. And so it's been a wild ride. It's been a cool ride too.
Well, and that's what it should be, man. It should be a cool ride with memories like that. And I know that's a memory I'll never forget is traveling with you guys and having you in the rig and again learning so much from you, because at that time I was a dad, but to see how you interacted with him made me become a better dad to my kids, because you know as well as anybody how tough the rodeo trail can be on a family. And you know, they're at home, kids are at home missing dad and all that. So it really did help me to become a better father to my boys.
It's funny because people ask me, like, nobody even roped in wedding rings before I come along. You know, like, my marriage didn't work, but I was proud. Like, I was proud to be married. You know what I mean? Like, she blessed me with everything I have. You know, my kids are my everything. Nothing else matters. I mean, they are everything to me. Like, so like, I mean, I have these big calluses and sores behind my ring, but like, you know, people have these excuses. Are you going to hang it on this or hang it on that? I said, what is small enough that I can actually hang that on? Like, really, like when I'm roping, what can I hang that on? And so like when I start making the statement to leave my wedding ring on the rope, you know, like more people done it. More people, you start seeing more people do it because their wives are holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Cody Ohl is doing it. You can do it. You know, he's doing it. Same thing with raising a kid, man. Like, it was Joe Beaver is the one that showed me true love on the road with raising a kid. You know what I mean? That's where, you know, I seen him at Katy, Texas. I remember the exact rodeo. You know, Brody was, I don't know, 6 months old. He's got him inside of his coat, warming his horse up, hands him off to Jenna like right before he ropes, and then he's right back in his coat. You know what I mean? Like, it's little things that, you know, and then the way I was raised, my dad loving me so much, but as far as Joe doing that, you know, it's like, hey man, that inspired me once I had kids. Like, man, that's the dad I'm gonna be right there. That is cool as it gets. So him rodeo with Cimarron in Houston, I mean, he was 2 years old. Like, so then wives are holding their husbands accountable. You know, we got to go home. Hey, you're gonna rodeo with one of these kids. You know what I mean? So it's funny to feel like you've changed some of that too. You know, you know, dad's doing it more often now, but you know, like, hey, Cody Ohl did it. His son was 2 years at the airport. And he was in diapers. I mean, like, you can do this.
Oh yeah. And then you had Whiplash helping you out every now and again, or actually often, huh? Old Whip, what's he up to?
Oh, Whip, he's still, you know, the barrel racer they drove for when she wanted, her dad's name is Trip. Anyway, he's still down there. Trip won't let him leave. You know, he helps there at the ranch, I guess. And but I see him every now and again. Sailor played for the state championship this year in basketball, and then Whip and his daughter came and supported her over there. So that was pretty cool.
Well, and people don't, especially the rodeo fans, they don't understand the support we have behind the chutes. And for you as Whiplash, driving those miles, taking care of those horses, and that way you were able to be fresh and ready to go. And, you know, I had a couple guys like that, Bo Jackson, Jeremy Unke, guys that would get out on the road and help us succeed and be successful.
I can't even explain the bond that he and I had. You know what I mean? Like not 1 ounce of anything other than coffee and sunflower seeds and energy drink. You know, just unreal. Just drive all night for me to be at my best. You know what I'm saying? Like I can remember him pulling over and I'd just be out of it. You know, and he couldn't go no further. But them 30 minutes he spent trying to get me up for me to finish off the last few hours, and finally he would get ready to storm out of there, and you can hear him running around in there, and he'd just like, screw it, I can make it, see you later. And he just slammed the door and off he'd go, you know. And then we pull into the rodeo grounds, and man, my horse is put up. He's in 2 foot of shavings, he's watered, he's fed, and then regardless, he would stay up until I was showered, I was ready, my ropes were ready, my horse was saddled, the boots were on my horse. The stage was set for me to be as successful as I wanted to be. I was rested. Nobody else is rested. I am like, you know, I just drove all night. No, I didn't drive all night. My driver drove all night. I rested up. I feel good. I'm showered. My horses are ready to go. Like, the dude loved me more than life. I mean, like, the things we did together and the 10 years we spent together, you know, it's things you can never get back. I mean, it's memories that I'll die with.
Well, and a lot of people don't know Whiplash, don't know anything about him, but he's about a 5'6" and weighed soaking wet, maybe 125, 130 pounds.
Maybe.
And I promise you, if you would have got down or gotten a brawl, that little sumbitch would have been the first one in there, and he had your back no matter what. I mean, he was a gritty little shit.
I promise you, like I first met him, he's driving for Tanner, team roper out in Arizona, but at Reno, he pushed every team rope and steer in the slack, every one of them. He's that size. And so anyway, I ended up getting him not long after that. But like I said, he was a little fella, but we called him Mr. Wee because he was a wee team. I mean, it was it was me and Cody. That wasn't nothing other than that, man. And I know for sure he would have took a bullet for me.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, and still would today for you or your family. There's no doubt about that. And I got to obviously enjoy a lot of whip through your career, and he would tell you how it was. There ain't no bullshitting around him. He didn't like something, he'd bow up. You
bet. You know, just like him, I mean, his story in all itself, you know, grew up at the Boys Ranch, you know, just, and then the bond that he got to, you know, the success that I had that he got to be a part of, just, you know, it was a blessing for both of us, you know, all the joy he got to be a part of, and the you know, the backstages, and, you know, just the stuff that he was allowed to be a part of, you know, to make his life, you know, as bright as I could as well, you know.
I want to talk about when you first started roping, your rivalry with Fred Whitfield. I mean, that is something that's been talked about for ages. I mean, you guys were butting heads, competing against each other for years, and probably one of the coolest rivalries in rodeo history.
Honestly, you know, I can say this like with pride, and like there will never, ever be a duo like he and I. There will never, I mean, they can say what they want to, man. Like, we're battling, doing all this for gold buckles, and we're rodeoing in the same rig. We have a driver named Scrimmage at the time, and he had been with Fred before I come along, and we're rodeoing in campers, man. Like we're in an 8x8 hotel room, is what you'd call it, you know, a mobile hotel room. We spent the most quality time you can spend with people, man. Like, we're in the same bed. I mean, like, people don't get it. You know, we'd win first and second, second first and second, everywhere we went. I mean, it was nuts. And then in 1996, I get the call from San Angelo, and we'd already been rodeoing for 2 years together, that I was going to get the match roping at San Angelo against Fred. So we're rodeoing together, man. Like, so nothing changes, you know, we're going. The day we come home, the rodeo season's over. Like, my rig's at his house. So I get my stuff gathered up, no big deal. Cool, man, I'll holler at you later. Nah, they wasn't no hollering at each other later, man. From that day till the match roping was over at San Angelo, for however many years we matched, it was just like any heavyweight title match of any boxer. I mean, we never spoke. We never texted. We never done anything. It was 45 days leading up to this match, usually at least 30. Not one conversation, man. And our lives were each other's hands leading up to that day when we cut each other off. Like, I mean, this is a mental game, right? We're preparing mentally, physically, you know, practicing harder and grinding. And, you know, we get to the match. He's picking his calves 30 feet from me. I'm picking mine. I got my team. He's got his. You can't hear him break down what calf he wants. You can't hear me break down what kind of calf. It's not, hey, man, you pick Fluffy. I'll pick the other Fluffy. Hey, you pick that big one. I'm going to pick that one. I mean, the guys stand side by side now to pick their calves in a match rope, man. Not a chance in hell, man. Like, hey, man, we need to win the coin toss right here. I need to rope this calf first. If I rope this calf first, he is going to scorch down through there in the second. I know which horse he's riding in the second half. You know, it's scenarios and like planning, game planner, but like we're best friends, but man, I'm putting my foot on his throat here in a minute. You know what I mean? And vice versa. And it was the coolest thing that you'll ever witness. And then 20 minutes after we're done and the roping's over, our rigs are beside each other. Like, we're going to eat a steak together. We're going to the bar together. Somebody's messing with me at the bar. He done slapped the shit out of him. You know, like, I mean, like, you'll never witness what we went through and the cool things. You know, like I said, I was like a little brother to him. Like, it seemed like there for 2 or 3 years. You know, there was nothing he wouldn't do for me. And, you know, I learned, I mean, cleaning my stalls yesterday, I'm like, man, they call this OCD, whatever, all these abbreviations. There ain't nothing about it but pride, man. It's all there is. Like, I'm taking care of these horses because they've taken care of me, you know. And like, I learned how to pick stalls from Fred Whitfield. I learned how to clean my trailer from Fred Whitfield. I learned how to keep my stuff clean from Fred Whitfield, man. Like, learn how to be like an ultimate competitor from Fred Whitfield. You know, like, it's where it all came from, man. Like, we became ultimate competitors. I made him who he is. He made me who I am. You know, like, it's a story like no other.
On a completely different note, I can remember my rookie year, I believe, we were at Laughlin, and you were entered the steer wrestling. I don't know, you were supposed to get drawn out. And for you fans out there, this is a bulldog and some bitch right here. Made the short round.
There's nothing, man. Like, you know, posted the other day about my dad, you know, like, he taught me everything, you know, like, got me in the right hands when steer wrestling come along when I needed to become a steer wrestler, you know, and 1 or 2 tenths off being a state champion in the steer wrestling in Texas. I mean, anything you freaking win in Texas, man, if you win a state championship, you beat some talent, man. So, like, you know, I went to college on a full ride, but I was 3 events. I mean, I was as good. I felt like I could compete with any steer wrestler as I could in the calf roping, you know, and had some knee issues there my senior year playing football that kind of kept me out. I didn't steer wrestle till my second semester at college, you know, and still ended up like 5th or 6th in the region against a whole slew of bulldoggers that year. You know, it's like the real deal guys, you know. And so, but back to your story, I was Bill Pace and Chad Biesmeyer living with me at that time. We're bulldogging every day, man. They'd help me rope calves in the morning, and we'd steer wrestle in the evening. I'm bailing in there. I'm shoot dogging with them. I'm in the best shape of my life, and this, you know, this is in 2001. This is leading up to the, you know, I'm in the greatest shape ever. Like, but they entered me at Laughlin in the steer wrestling with them. So, you know, they stopped the slack for like 2 hours, like, because there's guys that got drawn out because of me being entered, you know. Right. So, you know, finally, I had some teammates back then, man. Like, there was people that we were tight, you know. And then with them being steer wrestlers, finally at the 2 hour mark, they finally, like Bill and Chad both said, "Hey, man, screw all of y'all. This dude bulldogs every day with us. Y'all screwed up and let him get in here through the system. He's running these freaking stairs, and the rest of y'all can shut your friggin' mouth." I got the barrier in the first round to, you know, almost make the short go, or I don't know. I might even made the short go.
I'm pretty sure you made. I think I made
the short go and got the barrier in the short go is what actually happened.
Yeah,
but yeah, like, so I had all the steer wrestlers were against me, man, and I make the short round for like another story of when all the odds are against me. I mean, that's like having a gun to your head.
Oh man, yeah, you got it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were. Like I said, I was talking with Fred and talking about that competitive edge. And speaking of competitive edge, we were talking about entering rodeos back in the day when you didn't have a cell phone. You had to get to pay phones. And he said, that son of a bitch blew my truck up trying to get us entered. So we were coming from Calgary, coming through Montana. And he told a story about blowing the truck up or the transmission out.
Yeah, I mean, and people don't have a clue, man, what we went through. Like, they don't have a clue. Like, I'm telling the girl come for lessons the other day. So how did y'all do this? I'm like, man, we're looking at our sports news and we're like, holy shit, Cheyenne closes in 20 minutes. We're 19 miles from the next town, man. And we're fixing to miss the books at Cheyenne. We get there, sure. I mean, there's 2 people standing there in line. I mean, we're whipping out $50 here, man. I need to use that phone. You know, like, I got to get on that phone. Well, not only that, now we're entered at Cheyenne or Nampa or wherever. Now we got to stop again sometime in here. We got to try to call Joe Blow when he gets off of work and try to get traded.
Yeah, oh,
we
yeah.
got to call this dude 4 or 5 times in one day just to try to get a hold of the dude, you know, talking to his mom. He's at work. Try him later. You know, they don't understand to get traded at a rodeo what it took to do that, but to get entered and all that, you know, like, it's crazy. It's just a race to the next town. Hey, man, that such closes. Hey, the trade deadline closes in an hour. You know, like driving 100 just to do this part of it. You know, but yeah, I blew the truck up. I don't remember what rodeo it was, but we had to get traded or had to get entered, one of the two.
Oh man, those are the good stories, man. Again, the youth of today I don't think they get to experience that because of technology. You know, it's just get on their phone. Okay, we entered this rodeo, right? We need to get a plane ticket. We entered here. We need to get traded to this one. Hit this. We'll call them up. Everybody's got a cell phone. That doesn't make for a good story. That shit you just said made for a great story.
And it don't even have you see him with a hot girl, man. You got her on your phone, man. We had to go square dance to somebody.
Yeah, they didn't have to go work. They got on Tinder.
Yeah, yeah. All of it, the whole phase, man, was just, you know, like, I was thinking about it yesterday. I mean, like, this guy's telling me this story, and I was like, man, you know, buckle bunnies are everywhere, man, but now it's not even work to them, man. They know who you are when you come in the bar. They don't even have to take a chance of going home with your driver or the rodeo clown or nothing. They know exactly who you are when you walk in now.
Yeah, you can't even give them a fake name.
No.
Shit. Oh, man. Well, Cody, I've appreciated you my whole career for a lot of reasons. Being able to look up to you, compete with you, travel with you, call you a friend mainly. We'll have to do this again. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and man, I'm proud of you for digging yourself out of what could have been a rut that you wouldn't have been able to get out of.
Man, I appreciate it. And like I said, it's taken a team, man, and God's in charge of my life now and running every phase of it. But I have a team behind me as well with my family and my boss and his businesses, and you know, it takes a whole tribe of people to pull all this off every day, and I'm a very blessed man right now.
Well, the world's seeing it, and you're proving it back to them too, man. So best of luck to you, and hell, we'll have to go. Since we're neighbors, we're going to have to go get some dinner or come over, barbecue or something.
We can do it. I also want to give a shout out, you know, the next benefit roping's on Mother's Day here in my backyard, Quincy Kukulahan benefit, and it'll be big. Everybody's, you know, back home from rodeo, and so just we're going to raise a lot of money for him and bless another kid's life that needs our help right now.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate everything you're doing for everybody, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Cody.